When they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them.
And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Shall see their dead bodies 3 days and a half, and shall not suffer their dead bodies to be put in graves. And they that dwell upon the earth shall rejoice over them, and make merry, and send gifts one to another.
Hello, good morning. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. That city which is spiritually called Sodom and Egypt. Sodom gets called up a lot in the scriptures and the prophets. Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel all refer to it. Amos, many other places. And of course the New Testament on several occasions, especially in Revelation. Here we have the fateful even. And let's read. I'm sorry. Where? Okay. And there came 2 angels to Sodom at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them. And he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. And he said, Behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and ye shall rise up early and go on your ways. And they said, Nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly. And they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. And they said, Stand back. And they said again, This one fellow came in to sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot, and came near to break the door. But the men put forth their hand, and pulled Lot into the house to them, and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou any here I'm reading badly. And the men said it, some of the syntax is unexpected, And the men said unto Lot, Hast thou here any besides, son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city? Bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord hath sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out, and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy this city. But he seemed as one that mocked to his sons-in-law. I'm sorry. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife. and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him. And they brought him forth and set him without the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, O not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy, which thou hast showed unto me in saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold now this city near to flee unto, and it is a little one. O let me escape thither. Is it not a little one, and my soul shall live? And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing also, that I will not overthrow this city, for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zoar. And then if you think about the prophecies in Isaiah concerning Moab, he shall flee to Zoar. It's very tied into their history. That's all I'm saying. The sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zoar. Then the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. And he overthrew those cities, and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he had stood before the Lord. And he looked toward Sodom and Gomorrah, and toward all the land of the plain, and behold, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass, when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow, when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. And Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar. And he dwelt in a cave, and he and his 2 daughters. And his firstborn said unto the younger, Our father is old, and there is not a man in the earth to come in unto us after the manner of all the earth. Come, let us make our father drink wine, and we will lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night, and the firstborn went in and lay with her father, and he perceived not when she lay down and when she arose. And it came to pass on the morrow that the firstborn said unto the younger, Behold, I lay yesternight with my father. Let us make him drink wine this night also, and go thou in and lie with him, that we may preserve seed of our father. And they made their father drink wine that night also, and the younger arose and lay with him. And he perceived not when she lay down, nor when he arose, or when she rose. Thus were both the daughters of Lot with child by their father. And the firstborn bare a son, and called his name Moab. The same is the father of the Moabites unto this day. And the younger she also bare a son, and called his name Ben-Ammi. The same is the father of the children of Ammon unto this day. And so, that goes to chapter 20, and then we get back to Abraham. So, Sodom and Gomorrah. The 2 angels come to Sodom at even. Right? And much as when they encounter Abraham, Lot also, though the Lord himself is not present, it is my Lord's. And the use of the plural means that the 2 are seen as equivalent or equal. 2 angels. It says 2 angels, so we can, and again, angels being the Hebrew melech. No, not melech. I forget what angels is in Hebrew. Okay. It's something like that. I think it's like, it's similar to king or something like, or maybe I just completely forgot. I don't know. I don't remember what angel is in Hebrew. Forgot the word. I remember it's angelos in Greek because it's a lot like angel. Genesis 19. Angels Oh, Malak. So Paul, you're not so. Hey, hey, your memory ain't that bad. It's Malak. And it means a messenger. Context determines what kind of messenger it is. If it's an angel from the Lord, a messenger from the Lord, it's presumed to be supernatural, because it generally doesn't. I do not believe. I mean, you could look at the Englishman's Concordance on the right here, right? Let me scooch it just a bit. On the right-hand side, you see the Englishman's Concordance. And that gives you all the uses of Malak in the entire Old Testament. The first one was in 16, the angel of the Lord found. That was when that's the first mention of an angel in the entire Bible, is the angel of the Lord that found Hagar. And it's mentioned twice in that chapter, 3 times in that chapter, 4 times. 4 times in that chapter. Interesting, right? 4 times, right? The angel of the Lord. Oh, but then... Oh, no, yeah. It's always the angel of the Lord. Every time, the first 4 are all the angel of the Lord. Very fascinating. The angel of Yahweh. Now, here it is 2 angels. The next occurrence is 19, and it's another 2 occurrences. Let me get Genesis 21 that calls the angel of God. The angel of the Lord. Interestingly, in 18, the 3 that are not identified as angels, but as the Lord himself. But then the Lord remains with, it seems like he remains talking with Abraham, and the 2 messengers go off to Sodom. Okay. And so Lot greets them and gives them honor just as much. Let's see, he bowed himself with his face toward the ground. Now, like I said, just because the angels aren't specified, I had said it would look like a very Trinitarian construction in the other chapter, but when it calls them 2 angels, it seems like, well, no. But the thing here that is also a bit of an issue is in the book of Revelation. At least in the book of Revelation, when the Apostle John falls, I fell at the feet of the angel which showed these things to me. I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. I'm quoting from my own version of it, the song. I think it's chapter 22 is the one where he says the angel, because before it's not obviously an angel, but here it says angel. And I fell down to worship. Yeah, right here, 22:9. I fell down to worship before the feet of the angel which showed me these things. And he said to me, no, see thou do it not. So there's 2 possibilities that leaves. Now here, it doesn't leave much of a second possibility, by the way. It leaves one strong possibility and then a weak possibility. Because the angel not only says, don't worship me, he says, worship God. You know what I mean? Worship God. That whatever John was about to do was inappropriate towards an angel. So either in the old, there's more possibilities, but some of them are ridiculous. Like in the old days, the angels used to let people worship them. That's ridiculous, right? That doesn't work. The other possibility is, of course, that these messengers are manifestations of the Trinity, the Son and the Holy Spirit, perhaps. That would be a very unusual thing. Like, I don't know if that's how people generally interpret it. And I don't, like I said, the only reason I feel pushed that way is because of this and because of what Lot does. He bows himself with his face toward the ground. Again, it could be kind of customary. It is often customary to bow before a Lord. And so it does not necessarily, because here's the problem, is to bow is to worship. In fact, worship means to bow. I remember looking into this because I was looking into the nature of worship, and that's why I say worship is a natural thing you do. When you're confronted with God, you put your head down, you stop looking. Because humans are curious and we look at things, but when we encounter God, we will know what we're seeing. You know what I mean? It's like some things we know what we see and we have to look away. And if you stand before God, you will bow. I love all those atheists who think they're going to be like, oh yeah, well I got some questions for you. Oh yeah, okay. Good luck with that one. You may never get the answer to your questions. Doubtless they'd agree. God doesn't demand your worship, he doesn't have to. His existence demands it. You know what I mean? His presence demands it. It's kind of like, it's appropriate. Lot is appropriate. He encounters them, and he understands that these are not normal men. He refers to them as Adonai, lords. Adon, or something like that. I forgot the exact configuration, but it's the same word, Lord. Not Yahweh, as it did before, but lords. My lords, turn in, I pray you, into your... Come into my house and stay all night. Wash your feet. Just like Abraham said to the three that appeared to him. Lot is he's hospitable, but also, recognizing who or something, he doesn't just wait for every person that enters the city, I think. There's something that he recognizes also about them. And it's interesting because, the men of the city also take a great interest. And because, again, like I said, when we talk about bowing before God, right? Now, I mean, if God were to reveal himself to a very large extent to you, you would instinctively bow. Now, when Christ came in the earth, people did not everywhere just recognize him as God because he did not have anything in him that was desirable that we would know that was him. As far as, that's like what Isaiah 53 says. He had no form nor appearance that we should delight in him. It wasn't, there was no, like, oh, he's God, look at him. It wasn't just like obvious. He looked like an ordinary man. That's why when Peter declared him to be the Messiah, it was not because of, just because he saw him walking down the street. It's because of the things, well, one, John the Baptist pointed him out, but two, the works that he did and the things that he preached. But ultimately, because God revealed it to him. That's what Jesus said. The flesh and blood did not reveal this to you, but my Father which is in heaven. And that's an important aspect. So what I would say is these men, when God is appearing in the persons of these men, he is not appearing, appears to be men. Not necessarily, supernatural creatures. They're called angels, but I would not expect them to have wings and all, things like that. And their appearance of being supernatural, they may not appear supernatural at all. But as angels often appear, they appear to be young men. Exceedingly fit and attractive young men, probably. Right? That's what the assumption made. Because that is assumed to be why the whole city turns out. Again, that's sometimes, take that figure of speech as a slight hyperbole, but yeah, just about everybody was there. And I'll show you why I say that, because there's moments where it's like, but anyways, we will abide. But they want to stay in the street. Oh, we're going to stay in the street all night. And so Lot pressed upon them greatly not to. And for reason, it doesn't explain here, but we know why. We just read the story. So again, he feeds them just as Abraham did. He makes them a feast. Baked unleavened bread, and they did eat. I wonder if that's the first mention of unleavened in It's interesting where it occurs. I kind of assumed Abraham. I gotta get used to his new name. I assumed Abraham had. Yeah, this is the first mention. The next mention is the Passover. But, it's the details here. But before they lay down, the men of the city, before, it was time to go to bed, the men of the Sodom compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called in the lot and said, "Where are the men which came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them." I mean, just reading it to that part, let's not even deal with Lot yet. It almost sounds like our culture, where you're not, it's really, that's why I wrote a song called "Welcome to Sodom," and it's about today. And it's all about this idea that, what are your pronouns? What's your sexuality? That's an intensely private thing, period. You know what I mean? But they want you to have some kink and then talk about it. You know what I mean? That's what the society is trying to do. And you're not allowed, I guess as I read this, I was thinking, man, all the people came out. Everyone is required to participate. That's why we're heading into Sodom and Gomorrah culture. And of course, they want to sodomize them. They want to, the men of the city do want to have sexual. That's obvious from Lot's. It's not obvious that this no is a euphemistic no, from the way this. Because it seems totally reasonable on a certain frame. You could frame it like this: two suspicious characters come in by night to strange character's house, and the whole city is suspicious, and they come out and who are these people? We want to know who they are. That's wicked too, because it's a man isn't allowed to have guests. Men are not allowed to travel freely, to enter in a place to safely spend the night among fellow men. There's such godlessness, such, immorality. And they say, well, and for a long time I've said this, when the angels, they didn't come in and walk into the town that afternoon, and they went to the central square and they saw two men holding hands and putting a ring on each other's finger in a mockery of marriage, because it's a mockery, because there's no, just like I said, they don't have sex, they simulate sex. They don't have sex. That's simulated pseudo sex. That kind of knowing. Yeah, to lie with a man as with a woman is not technically correct. And it's technically not the sex act. It is an attempt. It's a miss. You missed. Wrong. It's wrong. It's about as wrong as you could get. That's the funny thing, is people want to say that, love is love. I'm not talking about, sure, men can love men. Men love men. I love all kinds of men. I got lots of love in my heart for men. I love good men. I'm not sexually attracted to men. That's a different thing. Is sexual attraction sexual attraction? No. No, sexual attraction is not sexual attraction. There's only certain kinds of sexual attraction that we really smile upon, or we ought to smile upon. I think other kinds, like I've said often, and I'll reiterate this. As Jesus said of the adulterous woman, go and sin no more. I don't condemn you. All right. That was also the death penalty. The same thing with just plain old sodomy. It was under the law punishable by death. I don't think it should be, because of what Jesus said. I don't condemn them. I say go and sin no more. I tolerate men's sins that are done consensually with other people who are adults, but you're all hurting each other, and I condemn it as a sin. But certainly, like other things, I don't go around trying to stop people from sinning, not physically. I preach the truth and tell them you shouldn't do that, and that's what we continue to do. It's a sin. You shouldn't do that. I don't care if you're attracted to men. It's wrong. I don't know how to deal with it. They stop trying to deal with it. Modern medicine doesn't care. They say just go be gay. Okay, then go be gay. Like a lot of gay guys don't feel that way. That's one thing. The dirty secret is, here's the thing. I've often said, and I don't like to be loud about it because I think it's a bit boorish when guys talk about how they're not gay. It's like, whatever. I'm not like, I'm not averse to people thinking I wasn't. I don't care. I've had my own issues. I'm not proud of myself. And that's the funny thing is they call it pride. Pride. I'm proud of it. Proud of yourself for what you do. Because you don't want to be ashamed. They call it pride because pride is the opposite of shame. Because that which should be done in secret and shamefully is done openly and proudly. But the thing is, not everyone wants to live that way. Not everyone is content. But shouldn't people who want to get out of that lifestyle be able to seek whatever help they want? I think they should. And I know a lot of that stuff is, like pseudoscience, as far as like they don't have a cure. Anything they try to do is it's like trying to cure a lot of things. It just depends on what you got wrong. You know what I mean? Some people, maybe they just truly debauched. Like, they didn't start off same-sex attracted as kids or something, they just got debauched. That's why you could have a whole town that's debauched. And you don't think so? I do. And here's the thing, it's a fact. It can't be denied. It's growing. Homosexuality and perversion in society is growing. They preach a gospel. Their flag is not just a political symbol, it's a religious symbol. Essentially, it's hanging from schools everywhere. It's being taught to children throughout the nation. It's a violation of the Constitution, of course. But again, in some ways, the Constitution is just a problem in and of itself because, like they said, it was written for a godly and God-fearing people. As soon as people stop fearing God, they go some other direction, and so the thing, it's not going to preserve that. You know what I mean? Because there was prayer in school because prayer was looked at something that the government didn't really run. Not that I think prayer in school would solve anything. I don't want the teachers leading my kid in religion any more than I want them teaching my kids how to most other subjects. At least, especially the little kids. There comes a level of because I can teach anything an elementary school teacher can teach. All right, yeah, I can do all that stuff. It's only that when you get into higher technical levels and stuff that it starts becoming hard for most parents to, to instruct their children. But I'm telling you, the whole town aspect. You remember there was that there was a couple. I forgot it was a year ago. I'm gonna go look in my. I've got the text of it, and I was looking at it earlier. But you remember the gay choir over in San Francisco came out with this song about "We'll Convert Your Children," right? Or it's called the Gay Agenda or something like that, right? I found it. What's the date on it? Oh, it was I obtained it in 2021. In July. But anyways, they're talking that song about converting your kids. Now they're not talking about converting them to being gay, but to being compassionate and understanding and all these things. But what they mean is to accept that which is sinful as not sinful. Because that was one of the first lines to say, you say we're sinful. Yeah, well, I say you're sinful. Yes. Sin means to miss the mark. And while I don't think being gay is worthy of what Sodom and Gomorrah got, because I think even gay people can understand why Sodom and Gomorrah was evil. Like I said, not every person who has a homosexual impulse is fully given over to this. We want to convert everybody to thinking we're okay, and we want a world in which, in which what? What do they want? Well, I'll tell you what, a world in which it's, in which it's safe to be, like, why are they so focused on gay kids? Why do they want to find them all? You know, why they want to It's because the people who are focused there are probably already, you know, those are infiltrating pedophiles. Just like in the Catholic Church, just like in, you know what I mean, they've gone from the church to the schoolhouse. And you bet they'll vehemently deny, and they hide behind the rainbow flag as a protected group, an oppressed group. But there they are with your kids. Making them tolerant, but also introducing them to ideas. You know, it's funny because one of the lines in the song that I find amusing. Okay, you think we're sinful, right? You think we're sinful? You fight against our rights? Well, you know, what right? Free speech? Your right to bear arms? Which right am I fighting against? Your right to marry? You can get married. You always had that ability even before you could have got married. You know, just like in the old times, the Greeks, they'd get married and then they'd have their homosexual romps off in the forest, I guess, or whatever. You can be as sinful as you like and still be married. But to properly be married, you got to marry a woman if you're a man. Otherwise, you just ain't doing it right. That's just it, period. I mean, you can change stuff, but you're just, when you broaden the definition, you just destroy what used to be. This new thing is not marriage, it's something else. You can call it something, but it just ain't what it was. It ain't that thing. You can never have what my wife and I have. You know why? Because we're male and female. We're different. We are forced into this cooperative relationship. So, yeah, you all lead lives you can't, and that's not true. I don't think you all lead lives I don't respect, you know. I don't think every homosexual does that. You know, is like a crazy running out to gay clubs and having sex with 15 different guys a day or whatever. But, you know, as they know, there are guys like that, aren't there? Yes. But the part I thought was funny, especially, when they start finding things online they've kept far from their sight, like information. Hey, you know what, guys? Go to hell. Seriously, go to hell. Yeah, it's porn. They're going to find your gay porn you've been leaving around. I remember as a kid, you know, you could go in the woods and sometimes there'd be like, you know, like they'd leave gay porn laying around and stuff for kids to find because they try to plant ideas in people's heads. Because like I said, some people indeed, I think, are from the womb kind of touched a bit or something. I don't know. Like they have a feminine aspect to them and they should not be harassed, or no one should be harassed, by the way, for anything except people who have broken the law, and then the legal authorities should come after them. All right, you know. We have laws against forcible sodomy. You know, I mean, still at least, right? One of the lines I have in my song is, you know, in Sodom, every person is accepted, except those that do not love sodomy. Again, you don't have to love having it done to you, but you have to be part of it. You know what I mean? You have to celebrate it. That's why you see in sports teams, when one person doesn't want to put the rainbow flag on their uniform, they're told, well, they're hounded, they're pursued. It's a big news story because it's Christian faith. Yeah, it's Christian faith. You never read the Bible? I mean, you know, I know there are people who try to rehabilitate the Bible on that subject, but you got to be kidding me. And also just nature itself. You can't change nature. We can love and tolerate sinful people. I think that that's perfectly acceptable as far as to love and tolerate people who do things and have lifestyles that do not agree with mine. I don't hate you. I don't really have any feeling. I don't like get worked up about gays. I don't like the idea of them. I don't like anything that's going on with kids, most of all. Honestly, to pick on the gay thing, I don't like school. I don't like schooling children. Let's group all the children of the same age into a big cluster and just have one adult look after them. That seems like a great idea. Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, I'm not a big fan of the idea that children should be put into giant schools like fish. You know, I do think there's a place. I believe in education, of course, and I think it works better. Schooling might work better as they get older, but for small boys, it's extremely tedious. and it doesn't teach them anything except to be whatever, willing cogs in the machine. No thanks, not for my kids. Anyways, actually, it taught me to be rebellious. To tell you the truth, it taught me to learn how to make use of every tardy, how to bend the rules to the point. It taught me how legalism works. In a lot of ways, because school is a very legalistic place in some ways. So, anyways, yeah, they're as they become more influential and push. I think what happens is this. Look at. I understand sexual immorality. I've had a dose of it myself. Okay, and when people give themselves over to it, and after it, and then seek to be accepted. Like I said, you got to wear the flag. It's not enough that you just say, "Oh, I don't mind the flag." No, you got to love the gay flag, and you've got to love sodomy. You've got to love gay marriage. I mean, you have to love it. You must celebrate it, and that's what Sodom and Gomorrah was like. They were going to sodomize those men, and everyone had to come watch. Everyone had to be part of it. Whether they were of one accord in this, I don't know. Like I said, it sounds kind of reasonable as like a story of like, just that's so rude. It is a kind of totalitarian society, you can see, obviously, right? Authoritarian, who made you a judge among us? Meaning, they were the whole town is there. It's like democracy in action. Democracy. That's the problem with democracy. Mob rule. The mob can be whipped into a frenzy. That's why we don't have a democracy in America. We have a republic. A republic of laws and institutions that are supposed to protect the rights of the people. A democracy is something where the people just get to change the rules all the time. Or do whatever they want because a majority says so. Well, I don't believe in majority rule. The majority can stick it up where. Yeah, the majority want them to come out and spread their cheeks. Well, hey, that's democracy. Go ahead, then do it. Bend over, buddy. Are you ready for democracy in action? Are you ready for democracy when it comes to bow to the gay flag? Give your daughters to them. Give your sons. We'll convert your children for you. We'll make them tolerant and fair. Oh, these are tolerant people. They put up with all kinds of things. They're tolerant. Watch what we're going to tolerate. We're going to tolerate mass. What are they going to run a train on the angels? A rape train? We tolerate rape trains. That's how tolerant we are. We tolerate cutting kids' genitals off. That's what we tolerate. We're a tolerant society. That's Sodom toleration. We tolerate people gathering around houses, drumming people out of their beds at night to examine their intimate lives. That's what we tolerate. And we're headed that way. We are. This intrusiveness into people's lives. You're right. Surveillance state. All that stuff. Just the fact, like, consider this. I have friends like who can't share and like my materials on social media because they're too afraid because of their job. You pussy. You're afraid because your job, I don't want to share. I'll get fired. I guess so. Well, sorry. Sorry it cost you a job. Sorry. Did I, though, really cost you a job? Or what is it that cost? The truth. That's what it is. And I don't mean like stuff. I'm like, this is about like pandemic type stuff I'm talking about. It wasn't about gay stuff. I don't post a lot of like anti-gay stuff anywhere, I don't consider, anyone who's listened to me for a long time knows I've always preached a heavy dose of tolerance because I do think that trying to, like the Defense of Marriage Act and all that stuff, the fighting it harder created the culture war. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Because I don't know. In some ways, it's sort of inevitable. But I don't know. I just didn't think that was the way to go. Because whatever you make a law can be undone by a law. I guess I feel the same reason why some of the founders thought there shouldn't be a Bill of Rights. Because they said, like, as soon as you give people rights, you can take them away. We don't want this to be implied that these rights are these are rights written in the heavens by God, so to speak. I mean, that the men can't take away, so you can't write them down as if men could change them, alter them, or take them away. Like the right to speech and stuff like that someone should be able to curtail that. Well, even with the Constitution, they still want to curtail your speech. I'm like worried about my new song. I'm thinking about giving it a weird title. I was seriously considering retitling it, instead of the COVID vaccine, My Grandchild's Photos, or Photos of My Grandchild, or something like that. So, something that would get past Facebook and YouTube and all that others. But I'm going to see how it gets through my publisher first, because I'll try to publish the song first before the video comes out. But it's done. I thought about changing just the title to something a little more innocuous. But then I thought, I don't want people to think, I don't know, I want people to hear the title. All right. So he offers, I have 2 daughters which have not known man, 2 virgin daughters. Let me say more about that. I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I feel like I feel like we are living in the precursor to this. It's not so much about people getting raped, though that'll come. That'll come. Because they want you to accept, and ultimately, why not participate? What's wrong with you? Why are you so frigid? When you give control to these debauched people, because that's the thing is, I did a song, and the video's coming up on my shared channel with my brother about the one ball man. And the point about that is, part of the point is that, wait a minute, because the most oppressed among us doesn't get to make all the rules. You know what I mean? Like, because by that logic, you put Hitler in charge. Because who's the most hated person in history? Hitler. And he had, and when, like I said, he had one ball. One testicle, to be quite fair. I shouldn't use slang. One testicle. And I was in history class as a teenager, and they laughed. It's funny. He's deformed. Right? Or like, these days, and what am I getting at? Well, look at, they're a trans person. They're so oppressed. People don't care about them. They're the most marginalized community in history. All right, you say that. Now you've created incentive for people to take that on, and use it to do wickedly. Because they get empowered by it. Because they can do no wrong. That's what happens when you start giving people victim status and give them like, oh, you can do whatever you want because you somehow, because of you've been victimized, you deserve now to be boosted above other people. Like I said, by the same logic, you end up, like why then. Well, then I'm just as persecuted as anybody, because I'm like Hitler, and they hate him. They hate, right? But do they? And I'm being facetious, and I hope you understand. They don't hate him because he has one testicle. They hate him because he's evil. They don't hate trans people because they like to wear dresses, though some people probably do. It's because they've got some weird fixation with going and reading to kids about being trans and writing books to kids about changing things and writing book, and especially when the fact that we know that a majority of this on one side for females is social contagion, and the males, it's a sexual fetish. Because there's only a very tiny percentage of people who have the mental illness that causes them to believe they were born in the wrong body. That's an extremely rare phenomenon. All these other people are social contagion, grass is greener on the other side, or they're just sexual perverts. And you can't give sexual perverts just control because they're sexual perverts. Say, well, you're a sexual pervert. We haven't tolerated sexual perversion for centuries. You're the most oppressed people of all. We got to put you out front. You're in charge. Why don't you be in charge? We need more perverts in charge in Washington. We need perverts in charge everywhere, in corporations, in business. And so people start coming out of the woodwork as perverts. What do you think they'll do with their power? They'll convert your children. We'll make them tolerant and fair. Yeah, well, yeah, right. And we'll also make them into trans, and we'll make them non-binary and all this other nonsense that doesn't exist. Yeah, you don't exist. You're a male or a female. You do exist in that way. That other identity you think is an identity, that's not an identity. That's what we call BS, which is it stands for bull. You know what, right? Trying to keep my profanity to a minimum. Just a 45-minute rant. Let's look down how much time. 45-minute rant on the nature of Sodom and Gomorrah in society, but worth it. Because what else are we going to say? Compared to today, yeah. Yeah, they're ready. They're getting there. They're getting there. I mean, you could totally see it, how society is headed in that direction. Can't like at work, right? We're going to have a gay day celebration. Everyone's going to celebrate, right? Except you. Or are you? You going to participate? If you do, you know what God says? I'm going to burn you with the rest of them. You coward. Die and burn. Seriously. Burn with them. Burn with them. You stand around while that happens. You know it's wrong. That's why I know. You know, even if any of the faces in the crowd were apprehensive, if any of the faces in the crowd were a little bit unsure, they didn't say nothing. So anyways, Lot offering his daughters is unthinkable to me. And it's like weird to say that he's a just man. But I get it. My thought is like you don't offer him the men and you don't offer him your daughters either. You know, I don't know. Maybe this is customary. I have 2 virgin daughters. Do whatever you like to them. I'm sorry, Lot. I just can't. I don't know, man. And like I said, you know, Abraham had slaves. and the Lord, that's not how he was judging him. Because God doesn't lay the whole burden on us of righteousness because we would never live up to it. Christ lived up to it. And we can live up to it through Christ, through faith in his blood. And that's why the faith of Abraham is the most important aspect of Abraham's character, because his faith towards God enables him to hear God and to walk with God and walk before God, at least to the extent his conscience understands what he's doing is right. Abraham owned slaves, like I said, but if he walked before God, then I think he's a kind master. If he doesn't buy these people, someone else will. If he frees them, they will be captured again. They're safe with Abraham in his house. They're in a good place. They're blessed with him, all his house. So, you know, again, and Lot, even so, well, Lot isn't rated quite as high as Abraham, but he is just Lot. He is a just man. They are his daughters. They're in his power to offer. And I think because of their vehemence, it may be, because here's the thing. You know, when the dam's breaking, you know, at the moment, you do whatever you can to stop it from overflowing. I suppose, you know, it's like, you know, I suppose. Meaning they're coming, it's like, wait, I have 2 daughters, you know, like something. He tries to offer something to just get them to stop a minute and think maybe. Maybe his intention is to talk them down if they agree to that. Because, look at, and here's the thing. Think of it as a barter. And I'm going to think about it this way, because actually it totally makes sense now to me. If you think of it as a barter, that he has no intention of actually giving his daughters, then it makes sense. And I can get it. Just like Abraham, for 50 men. He starts off asking about 50, 45, 35, 30, 20, 10, right? And so he starts off, oh, you want the men? How about my daughters? Oh, hey, how about I just make you guys dinner? How about we all have dinner together or something? I got a fatted calf or two, Maybe he's thinking of it as an opening in a negotiation, like with the others. I would like to believe that. I will prefer to believe that his first thought is just to slow them down, distract them, and that he has no intention of actually giving them. That's what I'm going to say. That's how I want to think of Lot, as a just man, and that works for me. I do think that's within the realm of possibility. So they came near to break the door, but the men inside, the angels, pull Lot into the house and shut the door, and they smite everyone outside, both small and great, with blindness, and they weary themselves to find the door. They got tired looking. They couldn't find the door. They were blinded. I don't know if that, I've made more of that part in the past. Like, it could be because of the rage that they even, they redoubled their efforts. And the men said unto Lot, I think, or it may just be a way of saying it was hard to find the door. Okay. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou any besides son-in-law, and thy sons and thy daughters, wherever you have in the city, bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is even waxing great before the face of the Lord, and the Lord has sent us to destroy it. So he went out and spake to his sons-in-laws, which married his daughters. No, wait, he had daughters that were never married and never knew a man. Well, I assume he had other daughters. That's what this must mean, right? He had daughters that were married, and he had sons-in-law. I don't know if they were with the crowd, but it did say all men out of every quarter. That's why I was saying that he goes out and goes to, it's weird because they were all there, but I guess as they were blinded, it must have caused them to be scattered a bit, right? I mean, that might dissuade you. Being wearied, they might have given up, realizing, maybe this is a bad idea. I don't know. But he goes and speaks to his sons-in-law. Get up, get you out of, and also notice, they ask him, what do you have here besides you, son-in-law, your sons, your daughters? Interestingly, they didn't, like, he has no sons. At least not there, It's interesting, like those questions that God asks, Adam, where are you? Have you any sons? For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great. Okay. But they warn him to bring out, and also his whole family, his extended family, his sons-in-laws even. But he seemed as one that mocked. They thought he was kidding. Are you kidding? Like, come on, let's get out of the city. They're like, what? And so when morning arose, so he's getting all his stuff together, and morning is dawning. That's interesting. I always imagine this destruction of Sodom at night, but it's actually at dawn. Not even at dawn. It must be well into dawn, because he had to get away from the city. Take thy wife and thy 2 daughters, which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold on his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful to them. The men take him by the hand and bring them out of Sodom, and set him without the city, and his daughters and his wife and him. No other family members make it, whatever they are. There's other daughters, I presume, with their sons-in-law. These are not, because they wouldn't be called sons-in-law, because they wouldn't still be virgins. When you get married, the act of marriage is consummated with a sex act, and that is, and it's very public publicly in their culture done. I mean that they will often displaying the bloody sheets from the hymen, proving that there was a virgin, especially when advertised as such. That's why I say it's like one of the things Jesus talked about, that one of the acceptable reasons for divorce was fornication. Meaning, if you married a girl that you expected to be a virgin and she wasn't, Jesus said that was a reason for divorce. Under the New Testament, he doesn't give very many reasons for divorce. Yeah. So his two daughters, they've never known a man. Not that, but what I would say, like, if you know what you were getting into, though, it's no excuse. You can't divorce a woman who was not a virgin if you knew she wasn't a virgin. You can't. That doesn't count. You knew ahead of time. Like I said, it's as advertised. And culturally, we don't put much value on that anymore. I do, I do. That's why when I read this, I'm thinking about them being drawn out of the city. That's like, well, I left the city. I was born not exactly in the city, but I worked in the city. I lived near the city. I lived in this massive, from my house to the center of Chicago, there was nothing but roads and houses and stores, and there wasn't a lot of cornfields. I mean, there's some forest preserves and stuff, but it's all part of the same big thing over there, where it's just like, you go to school and with a big cluster of kids from your neighborhood. There were neighborhoods and stuff. I moved to where there were no neighborhoods, no neighbors. Well, I have neighbors, but no neighborhoods, because there's just not enough neighbors to make one. Though we often call it the neighborhood, but I joke about it, because the neighborhood, when I think of my neighborhood, it's about as big as my old town was. It takes in like, I don't know, like 50 square miles. All right. So, interestingly, they tell him to flee to the mountains, lest you be consumed. Don't stay in the plain. But then he says, thy servant has found grace in thy sight, and you've magnified your mercy. You've shown me great mercy in saving my life. But I can't go to the mountain. He says this, but then he ends up going to the mountain, which is interesting, isn't it? I find that interesting. I can't go to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. But look at this city, Zoar. It's near to flee to. That's a clue about where Sodom and Gomorrah are. If you can find Zoar, Sodom and Gomorrah can't be that far, because he thought to flee to it. How far? I don't know, 10 miles, 20 miles, 30 miles, who knows? Is it not a little one? The funny thing is, he can't live there because he's afraid. He's afraid to dwell there. It's also ungodly. It probably did deserve to be destroyed with Sodom and Gomorrah. But it's smaller. But you see also, Lot kind of craves to live in the city. It's not entirely, his tent is pitched towards Sodom. He's a just guy, but he does like that city life. He doesn't want to live in the mountain. He's not Abraham got out of his country, but Lot likes to he likes to settle close to the city. He liked to have a house in the city. He did. He had a house in Sodom. And so he says, okay, you can go there. So he goes there, and the name of the city is called Zoar. Therefore, the name of the city is called Zoar. I don't think it was called it at the time. What does Zoar mean? Verse 22. I've run out of time. I mean, we're going to pick where we're going to pick it up, but Zoar means insignificance. It is at the southeast end of the Dead Sea. But again, like I said, the cities of the plain there, I don't think that because she was turned to a pillar of salt, I don't think it's meant to be, and thus creating the Dead Sea, that it doesn't say that. She became a pillar. That is, the Lord rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from the Lord out of heaven. So, we know that fiery objects come out of the sky. I mean, this happens. And he overthrew those cities and all the plain. and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. Lot's wife looked back and became a pillar of salt. It's quite an extreme and astonishing thing. It's probably the most severe thing that's happened in the Bible yet, right? I mean, Cain killed his brother Abel, but then he was just marked. It's interesting, you know what I mean? The world was destroyed, yes, by a flood, but she was turned into a pillar of salt. But but the thing is, I'm not entirely clear what that means. You know what I mean? What does it mean? You know what I mean? Do I take that literally, or is it stand for something? I don't want to be symbolic about it because I don't think it's symbolic. Symbolic would mean, like she was paralyzed, and I don't know. I couldn't imagine what it would symbolize because it's very specific. A pillar of salt. No, what I mean is it might be describing something different from what I imagine a pillar of salt to be. You know what I mean? I don't know. I don't have much more to say about it than that. Okay, so we'll just go on. And so Abraham looks, and then he sees the outcome. He looks towards Sodom and the land of the plain, and the whole country went up as the smoke of a furnace. And it came to pass when God destroyed the cities of the plain, that God remembered Abraham and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow when he overthrew the cities in which Lot dwelt. So we're going to have to pick up, I think, at verse 30 tomorrow. We'll talk about the incest, I guess. There's not a whole lot. I mean, I guess I could talk about it. We're a minute over. I'm not going to we're not going to dwell on it forever tomorrow either. There's not a lot to say. But there's a few things to say. I mean, the number one thing, and I guess I'll say this part now, just that like people say, oh, how could he not know? I used to think that. How could he not know? How could he perform while he was drunk? The body can be made to do this. While in a coma, a man can have an erection and be, because it's a body function. You know what I mean? It's about stimulating an organ. It's just like some women don't understand. How can a man be raped? A man does not have to be willing either to participate in the sex act. Usually that seems ridiculous because usually we think of man as strong and powerful, and how could this be done? And it's like, it's not easy. Obviously, it's not common, but it is certainly possible. And that's how it has to be looked at. This isn't so much incest as it is rape. And they have a technical term for it. They call it envelopment. It is envelopment. It's what women do when they rape. So that does exist. Anyways, so we'll talk a little more about it tomorrow. Not much. Like I said, that's about all I had to add to it, really. So we'll just maybe reiterate that and pick it up at chapter 20. In fact, I'm going to officially say we're starting at chapter 20. And if I have anything more to say about Lot's incident with his daughters, I guess I'll say it. But he was drunk. He didn't apparently do anything wrong, except allow himself to get drunk. Noah does this too. These guys don't understand how much, what their tolerance is. You think after the first night he would have figured out that maybe, because I could see how passed out drunk this could happen and he would not know. Because it said he didn't know. And I believe it. So, all right. That'll do. All right, we'll continue with chapter 20 tomorrow. I wish my voice would just heal. Thank you. Until then, thanks for joining me.
When they shall have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them, and shall overcome them and kill them.
And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. And they are the people and kindreds and tongues and nations shall see